Hi everybody, welcome back to Cosmic Owl Astrology. I am Louise Edington, Wisdom Weaver, Cyberpunk Priestess to the Stars, or somebody said I should call myself Solar Priestess to the Stars. I don't know, whatever. I have spent the week having download after download, by the way. So before I start, please subscribe, please give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment. I recorded on Monday a great interview with Marina Orms. She is releasing my interview for her interview series at the end of the week. I'll put a link below where you can actually enter your email and get those interviews kind of a couple of days earlier than everybody else or something. And she's putting them out somewhere else after that. There's so many things going on. I also wrote this very I think, powerful article for Oprah magazine. So watch for that being published. You can get the Oprah magazine for free, by the way, just by having their emails. So I don't think it's only for members. Not sure. Anyway, I'll share the article I can't share these articles on my website till 6 months after. I've also made some quick radical shifts myself personally. So I have a YouTube membership on here on YouTube, but I'm closing it. I've been trying to integrate my Substack paid subscribers, my YouTube paid membership into my new platform, which is great place. It's a great community platform for memberships. And it's just too messy, too complicated, too chaotic. So if you want to join me for my monthly Ask Me Anything calls, the first one is tomorrow in the Spiral Weave membership, which is just $10 a month or $90 a year. And there's other benefits too. I will put the link below. Now, please join me directly through my new community platform. And you get reminders for calls through that automatically. It's really good platform for what I wanted. And I'm not going to try and tie myself in knots anymore. And that's all to say that Uranus stationed direct yesterday. Uranus is radical change. Uranus is wake up calls. Uranus is shocks, surprises. And Uranus is staying at that station degree point, 27 degrees, 27 minutes until the end of this week. And it's already bringing radical changes, I can tell you, not just in me, but I see that it's bringing radical changes and shocks and surprises and triggers right out in the world. So I want to share you something before I start on the astrology and show you the cards. This is a conceptual map on Daniel Pinchbeck's Substack post. I'm a paid subscriber to his post. I don't know if he created it, so I've asked him, but he hasn't said. So I'm telling you, it's probably his. I've been talking about this forever, and he has shown us in this visual form, right, where we're at, this evolutionary crossroads. I've talked about the age of Aquarius being this weird mix of very ancient and very modern, and we're seeing the resurgence of indigenous sociality. We're seeing the rise of society against the state. We're seeing the original affluent society, which was just like supporting each other, and matrilineal oversight. I don't know if we're going back to that because I think we're going into something very different, but he's put a lot of this together. He's talking about suggestions for future transitions and synthesis. Okay. So you can go and read his long article. It's really, really good. And he's talking about what we're seeing in our face as well right now. And he's given it terms that are just like really summing it all up. The psychopathology of hierarchy, the extinction burst of empire, if you like, the corporate psychopathy, he calls it psychopathy, the carceral state, which means, punishment in cause, just punish everybody for everything. And it's in all its forms, like the church, punishes you for your sins. We're all sinners, things like that. And guess who are turning out to be the biggest sinners? The big web of corruption and sociopaths and megalomaniacs and abusers and things that are being revealed by not only by the Epstein files, but in other ways. And we cannot look away if we want to move forward to something better in this evolutionary crossroads. Okay. So, I know I'm quite political and not everybody agrees with me. You don't have to agree with me on every fact, but the astrology tells me that what he has put there is where we're at in this evolutionary crossroads. He's kind of envisioned where we're going, but I don't think we can really know, but we get to choose some of it. The astrology tells me that too. He used a term that was interesting because I had just used it in the article I wrote about the holarchy, not the hierarchy or the, any other archy, if you like, but a holarchy, everything whole together. That's what we have the potential to move towards. All right. Oof, I am fired up. In other words, in other terms, before I dive in, I'm wearing my own t-shirt today. I'm wearing the one with the apple. So it's got my logo and, the apple of Discord, Eris's apple, but also, Eve pulled the apple off the tree and the pomegranate in all those myths. But I just want to show you this before I start. If I can find the window. Actually, oh yeah, there it is. Let me show you. Below on this YouTube video, or if you're watching elsewhere, you can go and find it on YouTube. I do sell merch. I don't talk about it very often, but I sell things like this with this t-shirt on and mugs and various things. I don't think I've ever made more than $100 total on it, but I, thanks to a friend, she shared a video with me that said MAGA in Spanish means sorceress or enchantress or magician. MAGA is magic. So I designed these t-shirts or things. So there's MAGA, enchantress, not extremist. MAGA with the red thread there saying mystics against grifting assholes. We read the fine print, which means, we found out that MAGA really means magic, magician, sorceress. They may not be for everybody, but hey, I had fun creating them. I'm probably going to order a couple for myself. It's a bit in your face, but that's how I feel right now. I feel like we cannot look away at this moment, and we have to reclaim words, reclaim meaning, reclaim this holarchy, reclaim the interconnectedness of all that is. But anyway, this is the week ahead forecast starting February the 8th. So yes, I've gone off on a whole ramble before I start. So as usual, on this week ahead forecast for February the 8th to February the 14th, Valentine's Day, I've pulled some cards. I'll look at them at the end. So here is the Hermit. And I do read the meaning at the end, but I also invite you to tune into what these cards say for you. Ace of Threads. Love it. Strength. Love it again. And this card is the Phoenix. So I'll share the chart and go through the things. But as usual, I will kind of set the scene about where we're at. Let me just bring my astrology software to the fore so I can see it amongst my million windows. All right, so here we are. February the 8th. Let me start earlier in the day. So, the very start of the week to let you know where we're at. So at the very start of February the 8th, Sunday, February the 8th, which is where I always start my forecasts on the Sunday of the week, Uranus has now moved 1 solar arc minute after stationing on February the 3rd. The times around a slower planet stationing retrograde or direct are very potent, and it's usually about 5 days either side. So the results of this shock and awe, revolutionary, radical kind of change agent energy is still in effect right until the beginning of next week. But there's going to be lots of activation of that degree. So we'll be looking at that throughout the week. Okay. Mercury is in Pisces now at the start of the week. As we've been following the build-up of these planets, you can see now that we've still got Hecate, Juno, and Pholus in Capricorn. Pholus moves through it very slowly, but these two are heading towards Aquarius. Pluto, of course, is going to be in Aquarius for a long time, but Mars is now at 12 Aquarius and is still under the beams of the sun. So we'll be tracking these. Vesta's still in Aquarius, very close to the sun. The sun is catching up to Chariklo, the grey spinner, so we'll be looking at that. But Venus is now 8 degrees away from the sun. Planets are officially out of under the beams of the sun when they reach 10 degrees away. Okay. And Mercury, though, is now out of the beams of the sun. Okay, but is going to go retrograde in Pisces, so that's another thing. Not yet, though. But my point is, you can see that we had all this stuff in Capricorn, then it moved into Aquarius, and now things are starting to move into Pisces. Venus is not far off as well. So all of this is shifting into the last sign of the zodiac. On the very end of the zodiac, where Saturn is now at 29 degrees, the liminal last degree of the zodiac, the last degree of the sign that is the womb of creation, but also kind of the disintegration and the chaotic collapse at the end of the zodiac before we start something new. Then we have Neptune. Neptune is now in Aquarius, in Aries, has been for a little bit, but it will sit at that 0 degrees for quite some time because Saturn and Neptune will meet at that 0 degree on February the 20th, and things are then starting to move forward. Lastly, before we move forward, we're going to track all of these energies week on week, and I do break it down in very kind of, I think, clear written form on Substack. But I hope you listen to the video as well, even if you're just absorbing the general shift of the energy. I can't express all that so fully in writing. But Uranus stationed direct on the 3rd and will move into Gemini in April. And that will complete the movement of Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto all into new signs. But I can't ignore Haumea as well. Haumea moved into Scorpio finally around the same time Pluto moved into Aquarius. They are in this ongoing relationship and are approaching another square. And I still want to rewrite the article I wrote on Pluto and Haumea square, and I haven't had time. Maybe I'll manage to do that after this call. Who knows? We'll see. Anyway, oh my goodness, what a time. But Uranus is moving forward. Now, I do want to add one other thing. Or maybe a couple, actually. So, yes, I overcomplicate it, but they are all important to me, at least. So, fixed stars. By the way, I talk about some of this. I talk about the Saturn-Neptune conjunction with the interview with Marina Ormes. So, you want to catch that. I think I blew her mind a little bit. So, but she also thinks I managed to express the turning point, that evolutionary turning point in history is connected to this as well. So, Bohemian stars. So I do want to put Algol in there. Medusa. If anything is a bigger symbol of the abuse of women and how the rage of, being abused by the hierarchical patriarchal system is fighting back with snakes in its hair and eyes that kind of freeze out the enemy and literally freeze out the patriarchy, petrify it, chop its head off. Algol is a big symbol. So you can see Uranus stationed direct for the last time in the sign of Taurus, which is our values, our rootedness. It's also our connection to nature and everything that is of physical nature that we can sense in all our senses. So she's speaking loudly as well. And I am going to add Regulus. So I'm not going to say much about Regulus now, but the South Node is heading towards Regulus after these eclipses, and they will meet in the sign of Regulus. In the sign of Virgo for the first time since Regulus moved into Virgo from our perspective. All of these things are speaking to each other. And I'm going to leave Regulus because I might mention her actually. So we are in extraordinary times, which is why I wanted to show you that mind map or whatever you want to call it. Thank you, Daniel Pinchbeck, for pulling that together, because it just expresses so much of what I see in the astrology too, and in the world. Okay, so we start the week, February the 8th. Oops, I'm sorry. February the 8th, Venus almost immediately squares Uranus. 4:48 a.m. actually, and Uranus is in Venus sign, and Venus is in Uranus modern sign. I don't like the term rulership. I'm going to just not say it anymore. But, they are, planets can be more associated with signs, but I don't know how they can not work in a sign. They work in every sign. They are just how they work in different signs. Planet signs different. But Uranus is very Aquarian in nature for many reasons. Venus is very Taurian in nature for many reasons. But Ceres is also very Taurian for many reasons. So, all these hierarchies we've got to go in astrology too, and that's kind of what I wrote the article about for Oprah, so you'll hear me battering on about that more. So 27 degrees 27 is the number of the Bodhisattva. It's 2 plus 7 is 9, and ending 2 is the number of the divine feminine. 7 is the most spiritual number. Here they really kind of square off to each other, but this is also 27 Aquarius is also the degree of the US moon. For those that are in the US, I know a lot of this is kind of centered in the US, but it's affecting everything. But the moon is the people in the US chart. So Venus square Uranus early on February the 8th is waking people up. It's waking people up by the horrific things that are in the Epstein files that are being revealed about a gazillion men. Bill Gates, Melinda Gates spoke up, and she didn't say a lot, but she did what she didn't say to me spoke volumes. Her face looked pained. She looked sad. She looked traumatized, grief-stricken. And, she said, something about the victims, supporting the actual victims or survivors, as I prefer to call them. But the thing she said, I had to leave my marriage. And that, just the way she said it, said something to me about what did she know about what he'd been doing that made her leave her marriage. She didn't want to leave him, you know. If there's all pictures before, she adored him. She thought he was a genius, you know. She thought they had a happy marriage, but I guess gradually, you know, as these things can happen, she realized. But anyway, she woke up. One by one, we're waking up. But we cannot look away. We cannot look away from this. We have to face this fully on. I'm sorry, you know. I've seen people say, so she said that we're going through a reckoning, or, you know, as Daniel, this big shift in consciousness. It's a reckoning in all our consciousnesses. It's a reckoning in how we've kind of felt something might be going on, but not faced it. We've not kind of dealt with our own traumatic memories of growing up in a traumatic society. Gabor Mate talks to that in The Myth of Normal. You know, there's all these things are coming to a peak right now. And we have to face it both as individuals and collectively. Because, you know, we kind of let this happen in many ways, the people. You know, kind of people knew that stuff was going on all this time. We kind of didn't know how big it was. You can't blame somebody else for always just letting it happen. Anyway, I was going to tell a personal story. I don't know if I'm ready to, but I will say somebody in my family was, I found out somebody in my family was sexually abused by somebody else in my family. When she was 5, he was 16. And somebody else in my family, a woman, when this person kind of talked about it, she was said, oh, things like that happen to little girls. You just have to get over it. So that kind of thing, we've got to stop. Anyway, there's my rant. Moon, by the way, this is aspecting my chart. My progressed sun is at 27 Aquarius, or 28 actually. So this is highlighting that the eclipse is on it. My ascendant in my natal chart is 28 Sag. Aquarius and Sagittarius both speak truth to power when they're lit up and when they work together. Jupiter is my guiding planet. If you use the fact that Jupiter and Sagittarius are very aligned, and my progressed Jupiter is at 28 Sag too. So I am being compelled, I would say. Impelled. I could choose not to speak out. So, you know, if you want more, I read and study and listen to everything so I can see how it's showing out in the astrology, but I'm more bigger picture kind of thing. So anyway, moon this week. We start the week with the moon in Scorpio, and on the 8th, the moon will aspect the nodes, which are still at 9 degrees. They have not moved to 8 degrees yet, where they will sit through, right through the eclipses. I'll show you when they do. The moon will square Mars as well. Mars was the original guide for Scorpio. More stuff is going to come out, more secrets, more emergence. This is a waning moon as well, so things are coming out, being released, and we're seeing them. More things are going to be found out. I mean, what's that thing with Tulsi Gabbard, you know? This whistleblower has said, I can't say what it is because it's too awful. It's too much. We can't tell the public what it is. Who's going to do something about that? Anyway, the moon square Vesta. Vesta, the hearth, the state, but also your inner flame. All of these things say we each individually have to meet this head on, meet this evolutionary turning point head on, and create what we want to see in the world. And the moon is trine Jupiter. And I know it's a lot, and I know it's upsetting, so do your self-care, but the moon trine Jupiter in water signs is also going to reveal more, I think, about our ruling classes. But it's also going to tune you into your inner strengths, your deep sense of empowerment. And I can do this, especially preparing for when Jupiter stations direct later as well. Okay, on to the 9th. By the way, I'm going to put Daniel Pinchbeck's article in my document that is going to be in the description as usual. That's got great articles of how you can help and information I found useful, and if you want to read them, you can. Okay, so on to February the 9th. Mercury is moving forward in Pisces. Mercury is still moving fast because Mercury doesn't go retrograde yet. We're not close to the retrograde yet. We're not close to the shadow of the retrograde, as they call it, which means Mercury is at the degree where it will station direct later. So Mercury is still trotting along. Mercury in Pisces both reveals secrets, but also can lead to confusion and miscommunications and people trying to pull the wool over your eye through AI and manipulated things and bots and so on, so be wary of Mercury being like that. But Mercury will aspect Haumea, which is rebirth in Scorpio. I'll get that article rewritten. And so, Mercury starts to activate this, what we need to rebirth and what we need to dig into to rebirth or reclaim some sense of individual empowerment and autonomy so that we can do the work in the world. Oh, by the way, I wrote an ebook. It's free. If you go to my website and put your email in to get my newsletter, you will get the ebook. I got one email this morning saying I'm just full of like downloading ideas. It's just nuts. But I did get an email this morning thanking me for the ebook. Let me tell you what she said. Okay. She said, "This is a lifetime read. Every word, emotion, page arrangement, spacing, everything, it all works for me. Yes, can be read front to back to front, skip around anywhere on each page, and the messages, a fantastic read." Anyway, go download that. I'm trying to do as much as I can for free, but I do need to make money for all this time I put into everything and this energy. Basically, I immerse myself into it. So consider becoming a Spiral Weave member. $10 a month or $90 a year. The Ask Me Anything call is tomorrow. Anyway, the moon trine Nessus. Okay, the moon trine Nessus has been, it's the buck stops here. We've had enough. The toxins are being seen. We're the abuses of power are being outed or whatever, and the buck stops here is Nessus. It's saying we cannot do this anymore. This society has become so toxic and unbelievable, and we have to bring it to an end. Okay. And then we have the last quarter moon on the 9th. So the moon is still in Scorpio and the sun is now still in Aquarius, and at 20 degrees Scorpio Aquarius, we have the last quarter moon. Now I am very quickly just going to read you the Sabian symbol for the last quarter moon. So these are all guides for you as well, personally, and you will be having more impact from them if your personal chart is aspected by these transits. But again, it's this is all huge, this big evolutionary shift. So, the Sabian symbol is a soldier derelict in his duty. And this says conscientious objection. Sometimes we must follow our conscience and face the consequences of society's disapproval. This is about being true to ourselves. So this is applying for everybody. Don't go, well, I hope somebody else, doesn't follow orders. I hope somebody else resists. I mean, I do too. I hope others do. I hope actual soldiers resist, things like that. But we have to be true to ourselves and follow our conscious. This is a testing to find out how deep and authentic is our conscience. There is no escaping this with this symbol, apparently, because spiritual values are at variance with the values of society as to a significant degree. This is particularly true of armed conflict, where normally the individual is forbidden to commit acts of violence, blah, blah, blah. But the state may demand it of its citizens. Okay. But this is an example that's applying to all of us. So when tested on issues of conscience, it's good to reflect upon the spiritual benefit of standing on matters of principle. This is a call to stand on principle now, to take a stand for the future. Okay, last quarter moon on Monday the 9th. The last quarter moon is at 7:43 a.m. Eastern. But then after that, the moon will square off to Caraclo, who's still holding space for us to weave this new story and create the new world that we can create together. Then Mercury will meet Pallas Athena. This is real kind of down the rabbit hole kind of energy. Mercury and Pallas Athena both have this kind of creative mental intelligence, magician kind of energy. This is about kind of being the sorceress and seeing into the shadows, the clouds in Pisces, but also seeing clearly now, but also about speaking about it and creating a strategy and a plan to move forward. All right. That's all I'm going to say about that one. Interestingly, oh no, I won't say that at this time. Okay, so then Mercury will square Black Moon Lilith. She's dodging back and forward between Sagittarius, that was shooting arrows into the future, and back into Scorpio to do some more clearing up and purging and revealing of where shame and vulnerability, but also ostracizing, being ostracized, or being put down by this society that we live in. So really, it's all about that at the moment, and your place in this culture. Are you still upholding that, or are you going, no, this is not a good society to live in overall? And then the moon will oppose Uranus for the first time since it's stationed direct, because it's stationed direct after the last full moon that was in Leo. The moon was over in Leo then, and the moon will oppose Uranus. So all the shocks and things we're going to see in the face. The moon in Scorpio, more shocking news might come out. I think it's daily now. It's minute by minute, in fact. Also, I have to say, this energy could bring these massive solar flares and things that Stefan Burns has been talking about. In fact, let me have a quick look where we're at. This is 11:36 a.m. on Wednesday, the 4th. Oh, so it's Space Weather Live app. Let me look at this, the solar flares. Oh, the solar flares have gone down a bit now, but we did have an X 4.1 in the last 24 hours, and the flare probability has gone up to 40% for X class, 80% for M class. The big sunspot that Stefan Burns has been talking about, its sunspot number 4366, is now Earth facing. But I also saw a pop-up on this app that the CMEs, the coronary mass ejections, which are kind of like the force of plasma and wind that forces this energy towards us or wherever it's going, are also getting bigger. And that, from what Stefan Burns said, the combination of big solar flares and CMEs could bring huge disruption here on Earth. We're already seeing increased radio blackouts, by the way. Now then, by the time this next week starts, that big sunspot will have started moving away from being Earth facing. But I wouldn't be surprised if something's emerging from the other side too. This energy we're in is so heightened. Or it could be some big solar events the rest of this week that kind of ripple out next week. Okay, so because space weather does affect Earth. Anyway, I'm going on again. Anyway, the moon opposing Uranus could bring all of those things, any and all. More shocks, more flares, more wake-ups, more all of those things. Then the moon will try and talk to the hand asteroid Alice. Alice. I'm in Alice in Wonderland still. That's Lilith. Oh, look, it's raised my hand. She is like saying, no, we are not going back. She is heading towards Saturn, breaking the old rules, but stepping into her own maturity, backbone, strength, courage, determination. So she's heading towards Saturn, and the moon activates her. So right at the end of this zodiac, we've got this powerful meeting of asteroid Lilith, the part of us that has always been missing, the divine feminine in many ways, one part of it, it's always multivalent, is coming to Saturn at the end of that zodiac, saying it's time to end this completely. Okay, I am shocked but not shocked by the Epstein files, by the way, but just get it all out. Let's see it all. It's not now just about justice for the survivors, though I do want that. This is about this whole hierarchical web of corruption, abuse, power over dominator culture in all its forms. Anyway, the moon will then trine Saturn early on February the 10th, which is Tuesday. But now the moon is moving towards this big cluster of planets, right? And we're heading 10 days now from the eclipse, first eclipse. And this eclipse is massive, I have to tell you. I've got to do my video for that yet. So then the moon will move into Aquarius. And after the moon's moved into Aquarius, no, sorry, ignore that. The moon doesn't move into Aquarius yet. The moon moves into Sagittarius. I was getting my page mixed up. The moon, before the moon moves into Sagittarius, the moon squares off with Venus. Venus is now at the anaretic degree of Aquarius and about to join Mercury in Pisces. So again, we are shifting towards the endings and the releasings, and just face it, what's being revealed head on to change it. Okay, then 2:21 a.m. the moon will move into Sagittarius on Tuesday the 10th, and the moon will immediately trine Neptune. And this is Sagittarius and Aries, fire. This is kind of like that Ace of Threads. Okay, this is the moon and Neptune saying, let's be these spiritual warriors. Let's fight for truth, fight for our conscience, which is also very Sagittarius, by the way. So that symbol is even more relevant. And, you know, Sagittarius is like the natural laws of the zodiac, not the man-made laws, the natural laws of the zodiac. The law of consequence, the law of attraction, there's, you know, cause and effect, all of those things. And it's truth, and it's higher knowledge, higher understanding, higher principles. Sagittarius is also about ethics, so there's that principles kind of thing. So the moon will then move into Sagittarius on the 10th, and we'll start making all these aspects. The first one with the spiritual warrior in Aries. Okay, But then Venus enters Pisces on the 10th, so all change again. Venus is said to be exalted in Pisces. I can't. I've got to do away with these old descriptions. I can't do them anymore. But, you know, Venus in one aspect is love, and in one aspect, Pisces is higher love. But Venus has tough side. Venus is our relationships. Venus is our relationships, all things material. Venus is the divine feminine in many forms, and she too has been sanitized and depleted of all deeper meaning in both astrology and society for centuries. Okay, since we entered I'm going to say since we entered the declining age, which was about 13,000 years ago, 12,500 years ago. And it's time to reclaim that strong divine feminine in all of us. So, after Venus moves into Pisces, the Sagittarius moon will sextile Pluto. More truths are going to come to light. We'll meet Black Moon Lilith. And this is kind of saying, you know, speak truth about where you've been shamed, where you've been to feel less than the divine masculine. And this, it happens within biological men too. You know, this is everything. Then the sun over here will meet Chariklo, and that is at 22 exactly, 0 minutes Aquarius, saying time to be the master builder for the future. Okay, time to weave this new story. Then the Sagittarius truth-telling moon will square off to Pallas Athena. We're going to start really writing and speaking truth to power, because then it's immediately Mercury as well. You can expect my videos and my blogs to get even more truth-telling, because my whole chart is lit up by all of this, but that's another story. Because the moon will actually square Mercury at 6 Sagittarius Pisces, and that happens, the moon will be on my Mars then. And then the moon will square the nodes. And the nodes are still at 9 degrees. Notice they have not moved back to where they will be right through the eclipses quite yet. But this is coming, and we are in the, I'm just going to check, I've still got the true nodes. Yeah, I do. So we've still, you know, we're in the eclipse portal, but it's getting stronger and stronger and stronger as we approach the eclipse. Okay. But the moon square the nodes is saying we're heading more into the eclipse portal, because the eclipse is a new moon eclipse on the nodes, on the north node. All right, on to the 11th. And on the 11th, the Sagittarius moon, now at 18 degrees, will, by the way, Pluto and Black Moon Lilith talk to each other on and off as well. I think they're both very scorpionic energies. They're both about this themes of deep disempowerment and re-empowerment and rebirth. So there you go. Take that as you will. And the moon in Sagittarius will then trine my beloved Ceres, telling us we have to learn to meet our own needs, and then to be able to listen and understand and meet the needs of others. But we can't do that until we do our own healing first. Okay. And so it's just about putting that oxygen mask on first. And it does mean addressing where your needs were not met first, so that you can identify where you need to meet your own needs. Okay. But, or even where your needs were met, you know, you don't have to rely on somebody else to meet them now. So it's all about meeting needs. Okay. Then the sun in Aquarius gets to 23 degrees on February the 11th, Wednesday, and will sextile Chiron. And so this is the sun approaching Chiron. Remember, I keep saying all these cycles are ending. So when these faster moving planets start to conjunct the new planet, the slower moving planets, sorry. That will be at the end of a cycle and the beginning of a new cycle. So we've got so many cycles ending and beginning right now. But the sextile to Chiron in air and fire is again more ideas about both the wound and the core wound and how to heal it. And this is in our identity, our sense of identity, and I am. Okay, also on the 11th, Sedna stations direct. And Sedna, she has this 11,406 year orbit at last count. I think they're not quite sure yet because it's quite elliptical. And so she stations direct at 0 degrees 44 Gemini. So she's at her station point, and it's another big churn point. And I think it's important as well, because look, she is in square to Regulus. More on that later. I've talked about her a lot. But Uranus is going to come up and re-enter Gemini re-enter Gemini for 7 years. That's in early April, and we'll meet Sedna. And Sedna is a signification of exactly what I was showing you and what I keep talking about this big evolutionary pivot time point we are in. And one of her sayings that has been used for Sedna by somebody else it was actually on the Oxford Astrologers blog, is she has a sense of do or die. It's kind of like do or die now. Don't want to scare anybody. I'm trying to inspire you to do what you can, your small part. Because if millions of us do all these small parts, things will change. Be inspired by the people in Minneapolis right now, right? And then the people that are supporting them. And then the moon trine Chiron on February the 12th. So that's more fire, more passion for taking a stand, taking a stand on principle, for fighting for truth, for fighting for healing, for fighting to heal the wound. Then on February the 12th at 1:36 a.m., asteroid Lilith actually meets Saturn at 29 degrees 48 minutes. So almost right at the end of the zodiac. This is telling us to grow a backbone, but it's also going to reveal more shit. I'm going to say it about the patriarchy and about this web of systemic, structural abuse and corruption. I don't know how well. It's so big, right? It involves it in all ways. I just saw a live stream by somebody, or a short one. She does these really short ones. And I can't remember her name now. Oh my God. I've got so much going on in my head. Oh, I found her already. Her name is Monte, Monte, Mader, Mader. She's on Facebook. She's also, I think, on Instagram, and she has a Patreon and things. She was mentioning somebody's name that's in the Epstein files who, has been abusive in the church, and just about the very words of the church itself saying you are sinners right from the start. So she's unpacking all these things too and trying to pull all these pieces together. But it's so big, it's such a network, and it does feel a lot. We can only each do our bit, although I try and do it all. Okay, so back to February the 12th. Mark that conjunction. But you're going to feel it coming right from me recording this over a week before to that day, February the 12th. And it's going to ripple out as Lilith moves into Aries first, because she's faster moving than Saturn. Okay, on February the 12th, the Sagittarius moon sextiles the sun, the last Ptolemaic aspect. Go to Rick Levine, there are no minor aspects, but it's the last Ptolemaic or major aspect before the eclipse. And the nodes have still not moved back to 8 degrees. I thought they moved back before, but clearly not. But we are really now in the eclipse portal. This is 5 days before the eclipse. So we're 5 days before the new moon. We'll be entering into the no moon phase towards the end of this week. The big reset is coming and we have to work with it. Okay. So Mercury on 2:01 a.m. Eastern on February the 12th meets the North Node. Mercury will meet that North Node again, by the way, because Mercury will station direct conjunct the North Node when the North Node has moved back to 8 degrees. But that's another story. That 8 degrees is potent because it's also where Venus goes back online after being under the beams of the sun on the day of the eclipse. But Mercury meeting the North Node. The North Node is what we are hungering and yearning for. We are hungering and yearning as a collective to realize this interconnectedness and of working together and things out of this chaos. So Mercury meeting that North Node on that day is kind of asking us to tune into it. But then when Mercury revisits and goes retrograde, things are going to be revealed, perhaps about more that we need to know, but also things how we can say, well, yeah, I can recognize that I already did that bit then, and now I can do more of that. Anyway, revisiting, okay, all things. So then on February the 12th, the Sagittarius moon opposes Hygeia, which is holistic healing, says we need to change our perspectives to heal. I'm just going to sum it up like that. The moon will trine Eris, again, truth to power, standing on principle, standing up for the outsider, standing up for your own inner outsider where you never felt like you fit in. All of that. Shake some tables. Then on February the 12th as well, Venus, you can see, has already moved to 2 degrees Pisces, by the way. We'll start squaring off to Black Moon Lilith as she is heading back into Scorpio to do some mopping up. But this is also about how the divine feminine has been shamed, and to let go of that and find that it's okay to be in that essence of the divine feminine energy. It's the responsive, intuitive energy, etc., is as strong as dynamic, action-oriented energy. Okay, we've got to own that. Then later on February the 12th, 10:49 a.m. to be exact, Black Moon Lilith, asteroid Lilith, talk to the hand Lilith, goes into Aries and starts to be reborn, saying no anymore. I'm saying talk to the hand. I'm going to do this. I'm going to take control. I'm going to stand up for myself. I'm going to stand on principle. I'm going to stand in my essence and say no more. Okay. Then okay, I'm just going to move on. Then the moon moves into Capricorn at 2:44 p.m. Eastern. So, and then the moon will immediately square asteroid Lilith and will immediately square Neptune. Okay, because they're in Pisces. In fact, let me maybe get one of those. I've tried to avoid moving the moon, but I do really want you to see the process. I'll take it to moon square Neptune. So the moon has moved into, it's adjusted the whole thing. The moon has moved into the sign of Capricorn, the sign of the structures we live under, but also the sign of elder wisdom, the sign of the crone, okay, and squares off to first asteroid Lilith and Neptune. But this is endings as well, because the moon is now moving this way and saying we can both end the old one and become these very determined spiritual warriors and then join together as the moon, to create new structures. Incidentally, 27 state representatives and attorney generals have all formed this coalition to do what they can to fight for states' rights against the imposition by the federal government here in the US, 27. Remember? Bodhisattva number. You know, and this is how the revolution starts from the inside out as well, by those individuals standing up and then coming together and standing on principle. Okay, so I hope something comes of that. But for you, you've got to still do your bit. Then the Capricorn moon will sextile Venus, and will actually sextile Venus at the midpoint in Capricorn of Venus and Haumea, rebirth of the divine feminine, making new structures. And structures can mean the 27 state attorney generals or whatever they are coming together as well. That's a structure. Coming together in another group, coming together in another group. And all of these groups then start working together, and it starts expanding and coming outwards, right? Okay. So if you want to be a part of it, if you like my work and want to support my work, we are going to talk more and more about this in both my Spiral Weave membership, which is the lighter touch membership, and my Spiral Codex, which is for those that really want to go much deeper. We have a weekly call on that and other things. So February the 12th, 13th, sorry. We have a Friday the 13th. Woohoo! Friday's Venus Day. 13 is a Venus number. Why do you think it's been made unlucky by the patriarchy? Unbelievable, right? I'm not going to go on about all of that again, but it is Venus Day or Freya's Day in other, cosmologies or whatever. But it's named after Freya, the Nordic goddess. So you might want to go and look and get some inspiration from Freya. So on to Friday the 13th. Woohoo! And we start the day with Jupiter and Juno facing off. Now, Juno is the Roman name for Hera, and Jupiter is the Roman name for Zeus. This is a divine cosmic couple. They were married couples, and in way back when, because these divine couples myths go back way, way, way back, they were equal, right? In fact, I was listening to a book that was saying in this culture, Jupiter had more feminine qualities than masculine. All these patriarchal myths have been written by men too. So, and astrology has built on those. Jupiter is so-called masculine in astrology. I don't know about that, to be quite honest, because with Jupiter as my guiding planet, or they have both. And did you know in ancient Egyptian astrology, the moon, or cosmology, the moon and sun were both masculine and feminine in nature, both of them, kind of a bit like the yin yang symbol, a bit unequal, but over time, all of these cosmologies froze out the divine feminine, or the meaning of the divine feminine, in so many ways. Well, if you just think of these as archetypes, now we have Jupiter retrograde, kind of weakened a little bit in the sign of birth and protection and safety, and also youth and family. Okay, and now we have Juno in the sign of the wise elder and the structures of our society. What could that mean? It could mean, look at these patterns. Oh my God. But anyway, that really could mean, an opportunity to take a good hard look at how the structures of your life and our lives do not meet the needs of the whole, roughly speaking. Okay, and then the moon. Okay, in Capricorn still all day on February the 13th. The moon will aspect Pallas Athena, so more kind of strategies, ideas, and kind of like mind mapping you can do with Pallas Athena, like Daniel Pinchbeck did, right? To make things make sense, at least. And I love how he did it on a visual level, which is kind of that more creative way of seeing it visually rather than just written words, even though he's a great writer. So then Black Moon Lilith opposes Sedna again, and Sedna's still stationed, right? So still at the station point. And Black Moon Lilith, shame, original woman, all of that, or original divine feminine energy faces off to that. Time to do or die. So, okay. The sun in Aquarius still gets to 24 Aquarius and sextiles the table turner Eris. More cycles ending, more table turning, but this is air and fire, so this is more kind of ideas as well and speaking out, but also more passion and kind of more action oriented, more dynamic. Okay, fire and air. Got to get away from that masculine, feminine. Okay. Later on February the 18th, Black Moon Lilith will dip back into Scorpio to do some mopping up and more revealing, right? Remember? Neptune and Black Moon and Asteroid Lilith will meet. I already kind of talked about that. Saying no more, it's time to be the spiritual warrior. Stand on principle. Do some good in the world. And I think we'll see where people have not done that, but as well. But anyway, more revealing. So then the moon in Capricorn will aspect Mercury in Pisces, more kind of lies, sex, videotape, all of that kind of corruption coming to light, but also speaking out about it. Okay. Venus will then trine Haumea. I kind of talked a little bit about that already. More rebirth of that divine feminine energy, but also the stronger side of the divine energy. Haumea was the creatrix goddess of the Hawaiian pantheon. You'll have to read about her, but she was strong. She was tough. She kind of just regenerated, gave birth. It was all messy. She had multiple marriages because she outlived all of them. She's a strong female energy. We need to stand in that. Okay. And then the last aspect before another big shift is that the Capricorn moon meets Pholus, which is taking the lid off. This is about looking where you haven't been in integrity, either from I'm kind of meaning it from all these inherited patterns imposed by the patriarchy, and you go, well, actually, now I look back, that probably wasn't in integrity, even though I didn't know any better back then. So this is not about shaming yourself, it's about reflection. Okay, looking back on past patterns and saying, I'm not going to do them anymore. That's why the lids come off, saying, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. And we're constantly seeing more. Okay. But then Saturn. So I'm going to get this exact. Saturn leaves the last sign of the zodiac for about 8 years till he re-enters it again. So for a long time, and enters Aries for good. Dipped in last year, but at 7:11 p.m. Eastern on Friday, February the 13th, Saturn leaves the building and goes to that first degree of Aries. Saturn in Aries is really kind of pushy, determined, and it's meeting Pisces. I think this is igniting the determination within us, if we choose to respond to it, to be spiritual warriors and stand for something, not against something. Okay, this is why I don't like the word resistance. I need to do a whole blog post on that, because resistance, what you resist, persists. Can we talk about fighting for things and just reword things a little? Anyway, Capricorn, last thing, Moon in Capricorn meets Juno. Well, still opposing Jupiter, really. Two divine feminine objects opposing the old king, if you like. I think he's being taken down. I'm determined to come out with a new view and perspective on the astrological archetypes, but I need time to write my book to do that. On to February the 14th, last day of the week, then the cards. February the 14th, we start the day with Hygeia stationing direct. In an aspect of adjustment to asteroid Lilith, she is about changing our perspectives on preventative healing, if you like, holistic healing, as we create the holarchy, whatever I called it. And Daniel Pinchbeck did. I may not be the one who came up with the word, but anyway. Then Mercury, and so Mercury gets to 13 degrees, and before that aspects Pholus. So, thinking about reflection, what we've done. Mercury's now, I think, actually in the retrograde portal. Sorry. Oh, yeah. When it passed 8 degrees, that's the degree it will station direct at on March the 20th on the equinox. But Mercury's going to go retrograde on February 25th or 26th, depending where you are. So the pre-shadow actually began on February the 11th. If you want to start paying attention to what information and what thoughts come to mind on that, you will be revisiting them. Don't get wound up in the whole Mercury retrograde crap, which I'm glad to see I saw less of the last couple of times. But anyway, the Moon square series asking us to kind of start taking action again. But we are heading into the dark moon. We're now 3 days away from the eclipse on this last day of the week, right? The moon will aspect Nessus. Buck stops here. Black Moon Lilith will oppose Uranus, and will kind of still at 27 degrees is going to bring more shocks, more of these awakeners. Some of us seem to need a hell of a lot to wake up and smell the coffee. Some people have just been oblivious or unaware, sleepwalked into it. You can blame all kinds of things, but it's time to wake up. Okay, time to wake up. And the moon will hit Hecate, the goddess of the crossroads, helping us to light the torch for the way forward, which may need not just be one path. There may be 2 or 3 little paths, but they are all the way forward, okay, of building this new paradigm, this new structures. Then the moon will square Chiron. Look, they're getting close again, and then Eris on that last day. But moon is moving towards them, so again it's letting go of things that didn't work and coming up with things that do now work in this different paradigm. I'll talk to that in a minute as well. I just want to finish the day. Then the moon in Capricorn will get to 27 degrees and trine Uranus. More shocks, more earthquakes, more, things have got to be shaken out before we're going to change them. So, and then the sun will square Black Moon Lilith. But I just wanted to say something about choosing new words, new perspectives, doing things differently. I made some comment in a group I'm in about finding other ways to rise up together, not just going on the marches. And I saw and I'm not saying don't march, I'm just saying we need some more creative and other ways of doing things now. Okay. I think we in historically, and it's okay because they did work in the past. But if you look back at the actual civil rights movement when gains were made, there were many other forms of non-violent resistance other than marching. Think of sitting at the lunch counter, think of sitting at the front of the bus and things like that. Was there the clapback against it? Yes, because I don't think we kept that up. Claiming our space, you could call it, really. That just came to me. Anyway, I saw somebody being interviewed on TV about that as well, and I cannot remember who it was, but it was just saying, not saying that marches and rallies do not work, because they do. They get people together, they give people this sense of community and sense of purpose. We're doing it, but then we also have to integrate other things into it. So just saying. Or maybe marching isn't for you anymore. Maybe your other way is doing something differently. Back to the cards. Again, it's a big week. Big week again. Everything is. I'm going to lower my hand now. So we got the Hermit, the Ace of Threads, and Strength, and the Phoenix. They are kind of self-explanatory a little bit, but I'm going to read the book, because this book just... These decks are quite magical for this time, okay? They are very different to the regular tarot in many ways. So each deck has its own speciality, I find. This is the Hermit in this deck is I am light. And the place where light and dark begin to touch is where the miracles arise within you. That's Robert A. Johnson, wonderful man. And Wendell Berry said, to go in the dark with a light is to know the light. To know the dark, go dark. Go without sight, and find that the dark too blooms and sings and is travelled by dark feet and dark wings. This is seeking yourself. This is seeking your light, but it's also looking into the night and the darkness. Yes, it's shadow work, but it's not shadow work in the way of saying that's bad. This is about becoming whole. Okay, within. Okay, Ace of Threads, one of my favourite cards. I will hold it up in a second. Just want to get their word for it on this book. It's how I feel already, but this is I am ignition. This is the primal spark. This is the first degree of the zodiac in many ways. Set your life on fire. Seek those who fan your flames, by Rumi. This is about the time for dreaming your passions and seeing what manifests. That spark you felt ignited inside you, that split second vision that you had of yourself, bright like the sun. Believe it. Believe that. This is your red thread of inspiration. I wear a red thread. Anyway, this is strength. You've got this, basically. Strength is card number. I wish I could remember the card numbers. I can't understand the numbering on these cards themselves. This is 11. This is I am inner strength, and this is the red threads. Now, if you don't know, the red thread is said to connect kind of the divine feminine through the bloodline and things like that, and all those things. You can look up various things about the red thread, but this is about inner strength. Wear a red thread to remind you of who you are. Know that your life force holds great power and relentless strength. And I'll read you this quote. At the ends of the universe, which is the end of the zodiac, and then that's threshold into Aries. At the ends of the universe is a blood red cord that ties life to death, man to woman, will to destiny. Let the knot of that red sash, which cradles the hoops of the goddess, bind in me the ends of life and dream. I am the knot where the two worlds meet. and that's by Normandy with an I, Ellis. Oh, goodness, what a time. I feel inspired. I still am confident that we are going to be okay, but I send love to those that are not, that are falling along the way. But as a collective, I think we're going to be okay. And this card, number 4, the Phoenix, I like that it's number 4, a number of stability. I've talked about the number 4 before. Keeps showing up in a few ways, but it's the Phoenix. But I want to read you again Angie Sullen's amazing words about her card, the Phoenix. But let me show you the card first. Okay. The woman in the fire is no longer a witch, being burned due to fear, control, or power. The woman in the fire today is a phoenix whose regeneration alights us with dreams of what we still can be. You were born with transformation in your veins. The fire they used to burn us hundreds of years ago, and the myriad ways they have used force to suppress, annihilate, and burn your sovereignty or autonomy into compliance right here, right now, is losing its heat. You and your ancestors have taken the fire they used to destroy and brought it forward as fire to transform. The witch doesn't seek retribution. She channels her rage, power, sadness, and brokenness into her life force, her creativity. She is a living transformation, unfolding her wings in the flames of change. Don't seek stasis or passivity or comfort. Let it all burn. It is your soul revealing its indestructible nature. Let this time of change shape your life to become the flaming legacy of your Phoenix spirit. See you later. Wow. And don't forget to like, subscribe, check out my Spiral Weave membership. You know, I'm trying to do all I can to both understand and convey what's happening in this big shift of time, and all the support through the memberships really helps me do that. So I'll put the link to that Google Doc with all those articles in below in the description. And this will be on YouTube and on Substack podcasts, and on, I guess, I don't know if that bit goes out to the other podcasts, but if you don't want it, you can also join through my website, louiseedington.com. If you want it even deeper, the Spiral Codex is the place. But the Light Touch Spiral Weave, is a good place to start. If you want deeper community, the Codex is the one where we are really breaking the code. I love you. Bye-bye.